Have I not talked about these games yet? I mean, I've gone on and on about the main series Sonic games in previous videos, but I don't think I've ever had the chance to really look at the GBA games. Well, just recently I did manage to get all these games physically and finally got to properly play them, and I think I might have a brand new viewpoint on these games than I had before. While playing through these games, some playthroughs offered a heavy amount of praise from me, while others offered the exact opposite. So, why am I talking about the Game Boy Advance Sonic games now? I don't know. I'm just in the mood, I guess? Plus, Sonic Advance 3 is turning 15 years old this year. I guess I'm just feeling the spirit of talking about these games finally. So for 4 future reviews, I'm going to be looking at Sonic Advance 1, Advance 2, Battle, and then eventually Advance 3. Why am I going to look at Battle before Advance 3? I'll explain why when I get there. I'm not going to fully consider this a marathon because that'll sorta imply that these reviews will come out at a quick pace, and I don't really want to do that to myself again, but I'll still try to get them out as soon as I can. Anyways, I'm looking forward to reviewing all of these games, and who knows, maybe I'll end up finding out if all of these games are better than Sonic Mania. For the most part. Alright, this introduction's long enough as is, so let's start this series of reviews out with the first entry on our list. Sonic Advance 1 is a pretty important part of Sonic's history when you really think about it. Not only because this was obviously the first entry in the Advance trilogy, but also that Sonic Advance 1 along with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle were both released in Japan side by side on December 20th, 2001. Right near the end of the Blue Hedgehog's 10th anniversary, and also marking the first 2 Sonic games to ever be on Nintendo platforms. Seriously, that had to have been insane to see as a 90s kid going on to the early 2000s. Anyways, I couldn't really find any information on the development history for this game. I mean, neither could Gavin and Jack, or Johnny, or anyone else who's reviewed this game. Though kinda like how everyone else has pointed out, here's an important thing to say about Advance 1. While some members of Sonic Team helped put this game together, Advance was mainly being developed by the Dimps Corporation, and at the time, in-house development team at Sega. Put the pitchforks down, Sonic fans. This is early Dimps. The good Dimps. The Yuji Naka still producing these games Dimps. Okay, apart from the fact that Dimps made this game, Oh, fun fact, the Game Boy Advance was released as early as March 2001, and Sonic Advance was released as early as December 2001. So this game kind of had like 9 months of development put into it. I point it out because I will applaud Dimps and Sonic Team for managing to get this game released in the same launch year as the GBA. So, yeah, good job, boys. I'm also going to assume this game started being made right after the Dreamcast stopped being produced because this happened right around when the GBA was released in Japan. The timing couldn't be more coincidental. What's the point of me mentioning all of this? Because this is a lesson that when all else is failing around you, just remember that there is a silver lining in everything. I'm actually wasting all your time, so let's talk about the actual game now. So the plot of Sonic Advance involves...
Oh great, Cooper's about to spend 13 hours talking about the plot of a Sonic game again. Yawn. Just get to the gameplay already, jeez!
Can you please shut up? The plot of Sonic Advance is really, really simple. Dr. Eggman shows up and starts turning animals into robots again, then Sonic and the gang show up to stop him, and that's it. Oh yeah, the Chaos Emeralds are also there too, but I'll get to them later. Advance 1 having a really simplistic story seems like it was more of a no-choice decision on Dimps' end since this was their first GBA game, which was also being developed on a tight schedule. Again, this was mostly 7 to 8 months worth of development. So in the end, I'm kinda glad they went the safer route for this game's story. That meant they could also direct their focus for the gameplay and levels. And that's kinda all I have to say about the story until a little bit later, so it's very simple and gets the job done. So in Advance 1, you can play as Sonic, obviously, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy Rose, making her first playable 2D appearance. The gameplay in Sonic Advance is a major highlight, and for the other 2 games if I want to jump the gun for a bit. The physics, controls, and overall feel of this game is a practically perfect replication of the Genesis gameplay. When playing as Sonic, he's kind of the least entertaining out of the 4 characters. However, in my opinion, I'd say that he's the perfect character to start out as. He has the spin dash from Sonic 2 again, and he's also equipped with the Insta-Shield from Sonic 3, though it's nowhere near as broken as the original Insta-Shield. Still fun though. Tails and Knuckles also have their movesets from the Genesis games, so both of them can spin dash, Tails can fly, and not to mention Knuckles can glide and climb on walls. Knuckles can also punch enemies by pressing the B button. I don't use it too often, but I love this inclusion because of how simple it is. It's a fun detail. Sonic Mania didn't even give Knuckles a punch move. Yikes. The 4th and last playable character is Amy Rose. Amy is kind of the exact opposite of Sonic. While Sonic is the perfect beginner, Amy is for the more skilled players. She can't spin dash or even jump on enemies normally. Her main form of attacking is by using her hammer by pressing the B button. So you can jump in the air and use a spinning hammer attack to jump into enemies, though it does kind of require proper timing. Because of these limits, Amy isn't really the best character to start out as. So I would recommend Amy as the 4th playthrough of the game after you give Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles full playthroughs. That's exactly what I did, and as a result I ended up adapting to Amy's gameplay style rather quickly after understanding the level designs better. It's a bit of trial and error, but I ended up thoroughly enjoying Amy's playthrough whenever I got around to playing as her. She's definitely a love it or hate it character in this game, but if I could advise, just don't pick her as the first character you play as. Otherwise, of course you're gonna hate her gameplay style. But that's kind of the key for enjoying Amy's gameplay style, mainly with just knowing the levels and zones. One thing I was really surprised by with Sonic Advance 1 was that the level design is really solid. Whenever I play a 2D Sonic game, I'm often looking for something that offers a bit more than just hold right to win, you know? I'm always in favor of altering pathways and hidden objects and maybe other Easter eggs you put in the levels. And from the first level to maybe all the way to the end, I think Sonic Advance nails this really well. Especially when playing through this game 4 times as 4 different characters with different movesets, I ended up having pretty unique playthroughs for all of them separately. There's a lot of points in Sonic Advance's levels that just makes me smile. It really does feel like Sonic Advance had a lot of craft and care put into its level designs. It's not the best in the series, like it doesn't top Sonic 3 and Knuckles or anything like that, but it's still really good. Like, you could tackle all of these levels and have completely different experiences based off what pathways you go down. You can find your preferred routes, you can find different pathways that bring you to locations in the levels that make you go, holy shit, this was here all this time? I never knew. This is how you do solid 2D level design for Sonic games. And I'm pretty happy to see that Dimps' first outing of a Sonic game managed to do this really well. Okay, I know what you guys are probably waiting for me to mention, but yes, some core members of Dimps did work on the Sonic Pocket adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, but I honestly don't care about that game and I don't think it's that important to point out, so I'm just gonna stick with saying Sonic Advance 1 was their first Sonic game because it's better. There are the complaints that people have where it's like, oh, there's too many bottomless pits. But to be honest, I never encountered any bottomless pits until I got to Angel Island. But even then, it doesn't make that much illogical sense for there to be a bottomless pit in Angel Island. Even some of the main sections come with little platforms that give you sort of slight hints that, oh, if I fall off these platforms, I'm probably gonna hit a bottomless pit. So I think there are enough clues and hints to where you won't be killed randomly by a bottomless pit out of nowhere. Hint, hint. Even the last 2 levels having bottomless pits in them didn't bother me, but I guess that's mainly because they're the last levels in the game, so that kind of challenge I was kind of expecting. Is it a bit overused? I wouldn't say we're there just yet. Trust me. But I will say the level design in Sonic Advance is really good. Casino Paradise is one of my all-time favorite levels in this game because that level just... it's so fun. And if you want to see this as a true Sonic 4, I think that this is a great follow-up to, say, Casino Night and Carnival Night from Sonic 2 and 3. It looks like a really cool mishmash of both those levels, which I think is a great look for this game. I guess speaking of looks, let's talk about the art style and graphics. Sonic Advance is using the modern aesthetic, and to be perfectly honest, I'm really happy about that. The sprite work in Sonic Advance is stellar. The animation of the characters running looks really good. It's just so rich in detail. I'd highly recommend looking up the sprite sheets for all the characters in this game because it'll really give you a better viewpoint of how much effort was put into this game's artwork. Like, look at all these individual sprites they had to draw for just Sonic. That's fucking crazy. And it pays off because Sonic Advance looks really good for a launch year Game Boy title. Another highlight I have for Sonic Advance is how all the levels are original, and because of that we get these beautiful looking original environments. It really helps in this game's favor, and I love Sonic Advance's art style so much. I'd even go as far to say I think the sprite work here looks better than Sonic Mania. Whoops. Another highlight for this game is the soundtrack. I heard a lot of people and even some close friends of mine say that they don't think the soundtrack in Sonic Advance is as good as the other games, but I'd actually go as far to say that this is one of my favorite Sonic soundtracks. I love a lot of the original tracks in this game. I say original because there are a few remixes of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 music that are in this game, which I think is really cool and nice. I don't know, I'm kind of a sucker for old school graphics and music, so the music sounding kind of bit crunched to me doesn't bother me too much. I'd recommend looking up the fan project, well I think it's a fan project called the Sonic Advance and Battle Music Collection Remastered. It's basically a project that remasters all the GBA music to be in the highest quality they could possibly be in, and it all sounds pretty damn good, so I recommend looking that up, especially version 3. There's a lot of great songs in Sonic Advance 1's soundtrack. A few highlights for me are Secret Base Act 2, seriously that level track is pumpin'. Both acts of Ice Mountain because they sound beautiful. And Cosmic Angel because that is great Final Zone music. It's fast paced and really awesome. I don't really know where else to fit this, but this kind of goes back to the graphics. The elemental shields weren't brought back, except for one, which was the electric shield, which doesn't let Sonic double jump anymore, but it still attracts rings to you, so that's pretty cool. They also brought back the standard blue shield, but they changed the green for this game because I don't know, I don't care, looks aesthetically nice. Moving on to the boss fights, this is actually really simple to talk about because, well, they're all kinda simple. All the boss fights in this game are kinda just about waiting for an opening to hit Eggman, and it's incredibly basic and easy. Yeah, these bosses aren't too memorable or good. Then again, they've never really been all that mind-blowing in 2D Sonic games before. They serve their purpose as boss fights, but they're kinda forgettable. The final boss is also insanely easy too. It's not a very good way to end the game normally. Just like many other Sonic games, you have to collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds through the special stages to reach the true final boss and to get the good ending. To access the special stages, in specific acts of zones, there are these special springs that are hidden in the levels. I honestly love this inclusion of reaching the special stages, because it helps encourage exploration in a similar fashion as the special rings in Sonic 3 and Knuckles did. Another thing I love is that the Chaos Emeralds are shared across all characters, so if you wanted to, you could just get all of them with one character. I'd recommend using Tails because of his flying ability, which pretty much makes it easier for him to reach certain spots in the levels to find the special springs to get into the stages. Now, the special stages themselves are kind of a mixed bag. The gimmick here is that you're falling down a 3-dimensional pipe, and you have to collect as many rings as possible in 2 different cycles, while also avoiding many obstacles like spikes or bombs. This is a pretty unique idea for an original special stage, but the biggest flaw with these stages is kind of obvious by just looking at it. The depth perception here is pretty bad, so you can often find yourself missing entire rows of rings just because you didn't properly position yourself above them. So this can seriously take a good while to get used to. What also kinda sucks is that whenever you lose a special stage, you have to restart the game. Because when you lose one, it'll take you back to the stage where you're right next to the special spring, but now it's just gonna operate as a regular spring, and it's not gonna let you go back into the special stage. And also one little oversight is that they didn't put a quit option in the pause menu, so you have to literally restart the entire game. So you gotta go through the process of skipping the intro, choosing a character, then going back to choosing the stage. A simple quit option would have been very much appreciated. Kind of a weird oversight, but whatever. These graphics do look pretty good for the GBA, but they just didn't age too well. I also can't imagine beating these stages while playing them on the original dark screen GBA, so maybe the SP model with the backlight can be very beneficial here. One pretty good tip I got from a YouTube commenter of all places was that pressing the B button can make you spin in place, which can actually extend your character's hitbox to collect more rings. This is incredibly useful and it saved my ass on so many scenarios. The amount of rings I could have missed without using the B attack would have been terrible. So this move was pretty helpful, but Special Stage 7 though? I'm never gonna forget that headache. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is that before you could even get to the final stage of Sonic, you kinda have to beat the game as Tails, Knuckles, and Amy to unlock the new stage. Yeah, collecting all the Chaos Emeralds isn't enough. You have to play through the stages as every character. I don't mind, but then again, there are some people who think one playthrough of this game is a bit too much, so forcing the players to play it 4 times while also having to deal with collecting all the Chaos Emeralds, yeah, that could be a bit tiring for some. It doesn't bother me personally, but I could understand why it would not be too fun for everyone else. So after you get all the emeralds, go beat the final zone as Sonic and you'll get an extra cutscene showing him turn into Super Sonic. This leads Sonic to flying to the true final level, Moon Zone, which is home to a very easy final boss. Kind of disappointing. Then again, all the boss fights in Advance 1 have been pretty incredibly easy to begin with, so not too much of a big deal, in my opinion at least. This also has that one minor issue where this is the only part of the game where Super Sonic is playable. I used to be really bothered by this, but I don't really think it's that huge a deal. A lot of these levels weren't really designed for Super Sonic in mind. I mean, neither were the classics. But I would imagine back then those were just oversights. But for Advance 1, maybe Dimps figured they didn't want to include this game-breaking feature in their game too. So, whatever, Super Sonic is only playable in the final boss fight. Again. In other news, the sky is blue, water is wet, and Advance 2 kinda sucks. What else is new? Despite these slight issues I have with the Moon Zone, I do really love the final cutscene of this game, and I think it makes it completely worth getting all the emeralds. After Sonic beats Eggman, he apparently goes missing for a few days according to this text box. That's a pretty interesting path for the story to go. Then it cuts to Tails flying in the tornado looking for Sonic. Then he ends up coming across him falling down from outer space. Then we get this cool close-up of Sonic who looks right at the screen and gives us that iconic smile, followed by the usual "thank you for playing" text. I don't know why, I love the execution of this final cutscene. It's pulled off in an extremely simple way, but it speaks volumes for this game's rather simplistic story. The music track that plays during this cutscene is also one of my favorites from the soundtrack. It's such a huge highlight. This was a really nice way to close off this game, and I'll honestly never forget this. Fantastic. Then again, I'm the type of loser to focus on story elements in Sonic games, and meanwhile, several people in the comments section will just bitch at me to focus on the gameplay, and that stories in Sonic games don't matter or whatever, but hey, I guess not all people can appreciate good storytelling or have as great taste in fine art as I do. Before I wrap up, there are like 2 other things I want to mention about this game. There's the usual sound test, which is pretty fun, I think. I like the image of Amy just rocking those maracas while you're playing the songs in the sound test. I think that's really fun. There's also this tiny Chao garden. It's mainly for people who were into the Chao garden in SA1 and SA2. To be honest, I'm not going to talk about this for too long because it's nowhere near as good as the Chao gardens on the consoles. But for people who enjoyed those, I'm sure you would appreciate this little distraction. You can basically hatch Chaos or even transfer Chaos from SA1 to SA2 on the GameCube, which I think is pretty cool. I do like the tiny Chao garden, but it doesn't have a whole lot to offer. Again, in comparison to SA1 and SA2 Chao gardens, this is really lacking. But hey, I had some enjoyment with it. Oh yeah, Sonic Advance also had multiplayer? Using the link cable, obviously, it's pretty interesting. I've never really gotten a chance to play it for myself, but if you have access to a link cable and you have friends who play Sonic Advance, definitely give it a shot. It's pretty cool from what I've seen of it. Oh yeah, there's also this really fun cheat you could do in the menu where you could play as Sonic and Tails in story mode. Basically, when you're at the character select, have it on Sonic, then do up, right, down, right, L, right, R, right, then A. Then just choose a level, then you're gonna be playing as Sonic with Tails following behind him. So I guess for the people who enjoyed having Tails follow them in Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and even Sonic Mania, you can try this out here, and it's pretty fun. Though if you're like me and you played the shit out of Advance 3, you're probably gonna find yourself holding the R button expecting the tag mechanic to work, but that doesn't exist yet. Holy shit, I just realized how amazing the tag mechanic would be in Advance 1. Hey! GBA hackers, get on that, please! Okay, that's pretty much everything this game has to offer, so how exactly does Sonic Advance 1 hold up? Honestly, I'm surprised by how much I actually enjoyed playing this game as every character. It takes a lot for a Sonic game to expect me to play it 4 full times, and I ended up doing that with Sonic Advance without any issue. I think I loved Advance 1, like, a lot, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm really glad that I enjoyed this game. Would I say this is one of my favorite Sonic games? I'd say I'd still have to let this game sit with me for a little while, but after getting to properly play through the trilogy, I'd definitely say that this is my second favorite Advance game. I think Advance 1 is a good 2D Sonic game with a fantastic art style, a catchy soundtrack, solid level design, and just an overall wholesome experience for a Sonic game. Yeah, I think that's my one-word review of Sonic Advance 1. Wholesome. Now, a very important question arises. Do I think Sonic Advance 1 is the true Sonic 4? And do I find this game to be better than Sonic Mania? To both? Yes.
What? How? I thought you loved Sonic Mania! Who are you and where is Coopercastille?
First off, I'm right here. Second, people change, so opinions can change. It happens. It's natural. There's no reason to panic. That's just life. But anyways, I think Sonic Advance 1 is the true Sonic 4 because I believe this one truly felt like it was the continuation of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This game also just came from the Sonic team and Dimps who actually cared. Like I said at the start of this review, this was the Yuji Naka still producing these games era for Sonic the Hedgehog. So in a way, this was probably the closest to his own vision of how a sequel to Sonic 3 and Knuckles would have been. I'm not saying Mr. Naka's word is the only correct one, but I just personally have a lot of respect for the man. And I also just think that Advance 1 feels like an actual, well, advancement for 2D Sonic games. This is the type of evolution Yuji Naka probably would have had in mind. And I just think Sonic Advance 1 does this way better than Sonic Mania, or especially Sonic 4 could have pulled off. Sonic Advance is probably gonna hold a special place in my heart that's way stronger than anything I feel from Sonic Mania will. Don't get me wrong now, I do like Sonic Mania a lot, and I've put over 200 hours into that game that I will never, ever take back. But I just feel like Advance 1's originality and clever nods to the classics were executed way better here than anything that was put into Sonic Mania. Though I don't really think that's a very fair comparison since Sonic Mania came out during this classic Sonic crazy era for Sonic right now, and was also made by a specific group of fans who only really enjoyed the classic Sonic games. You know the group I'm talking about. The ones who would say the adventure games were only 1/3 good, and other stuff. That's where I feel Sonic Mania came from, which isn't a bad thing, but it does kind of show this type of pessimistic towards modern Sonic attitude, which I just personally disagree with, IMO. But meanwhile, Sonic Advance was developed in-house by Dimps and a part of Sonic Team, was produced by Yuji Naka himself, and uses the modern Sonic aesthetics as a form of evolution, rather than going back to the classic aesthetics, which I just personally feel now is a huge step back. But, you know, whatever. It's just the way I feel about these games. People are gonna have different preferences, and we're not always gonna agree on everything. And that's totally fine. I'm sure there are gonna be some people who have been following my channel for a while, leaving hate comments pointing out what I just said seems incredibly hypocritical because maybe I said something completely different to what I said in a couple episodes of Cooper's Perspective from like 2 to 3 years ago. I don't have any way of controlling that, and people can think whatever they want to think, so whatever. Anyways, Sonic Advance 1 is a good game, and I wholeheartedly recommend this game to any Sonic fan who likes the 2D games and somehow has not played this. You're missing out. It's a solid title. Though, good luck with finding it if you don't have a Game Boy Advance, an older model DS, or even the GameCube's GBA player. Sadly, none of the Advance games have seen that many re-releases. Well, at least not in the States. Sonic Advance 1 got a couple ports, but rarely did these ports come to the US. In 2003, the game saw a port for the Nokia N-Gage as Sonic N. Some of you might have already heard of this, and are also aware that it doesn't look very good. It suffers from awful screen crunch, and even with the letterboxing option, it looks way too blurry, which is kind of an insult to this game's great art style. Then again, who the heck is gonna go out of their way to buy this crappy and rare handheld device to play a bad port of Sonic Advance 1, when you could be better off getting an actual GBA and the original version of Advance 1 for way cheaper? You know what would have been way more convenient? Remember when the Wii U's Virtual Console had Game Boy Advance games put on it? And the Wii U's emulation for GBA games is insanely good. Like, really good and spot on. Gee, it sure would have been nice if the Advance games came to the Wii U. Well, guess what? They did! But only in Japan. Yep, all 3 Sonic Advance games are available digitally through the Japanese eShop for the Wii U. I mean, that's great for everyone in Japan, but for others outside of Japan? Well, you're screwed. The Wii U was a region-locked system, so unless you want to go out of your way to hard mod your Wii U to be region-free, or even shell out the money to import a Japanese Wii U to play these games, I don't think it's too worth it. Plus, importing a Wii U would also mean you have to get a gamepad imported too because, well, Nintendo region-locked the gamepad as well. Yeah, Nintendo region-locked a controller. Try to wrap your mind around that. Thank Christ the Nintendo Switch is region-free. I know this won't happen anytime soon, but I am hoping that Nintendo changes their minds and brings back the GBA Virtual Console for the Switch. The emulator on the Wii U is already perfect, and I really would not want to see that thing go to waste. Not to mention, it would feel almost right at home playing these GBA games on a console that's also portable. It would be perfect. Please, Nintendo and Sega, you would literally make tons of money on this idea. God damn it. Okay, one more thing to mention. Did you guys know that Sonic Advance 1 got an Android port? Was that? You didn't? Well, that's probably because you don't have an Android phone that's from Japan. Yeah, for some reason, Advance 1 got a port on Android phones, but it was only available digitally in Japan. Again, really ironic how Japan got all these digital ports of Sonic games when Sonic the Hedgehog isn't even that popular in this country. Pull the tapeworm out of your ass, Sega of Japan, for crying out loud. A brief rundown of this port. It's not very good. I think it might have increased the screen resolution, which is a good thing, but the soundtrack is pretty badly mediaified, kind of like what happened with the Sonic and Knuckles collection. I also don't think the gameplay looks too solid either, so I wouldn't say going out of your way to play this mobile port is that much worth it. So, I guess right now, if you're not in Japan, the best way to play Sonic Advance is on the original GBA cart. So go hunt down a copy of this game and play it on whatever platform you could play it on, be it GBA, backwards compatible DS, or the elusive GBA player for the GameCube, which is what I used. I highly recommend getting this thing. These games fit right at home playing on a good TV, which is excellent news. Or I guess you can use emulators if you don't see that as a huge deal. Smartasses. I should probably end this video before I ramble on more and more about Sonic for several hours again. The next review will be Sonic Advance 2, which is a game that after watching this video, I am so sure you guys are wondering what my thoughts on that game are because, oh boy, this is gonna be nauseating. Be sure to follow me on my social media accounts for more updates on future videos and or reviews. Support me on Patreon or send me a coffee on my Ko-fi if you wish to support me financially. Links to all that stuff will be in the description below. And thank you, Michelle, for drawing the thumbnail again. You're great. Be sure to follow her Twitter in the description below. I will see you guys later, and thanks for watching. Sonic Advance 1 is a good game. Go play it. Yay!